This podcast was made in collaboration with the Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism Story Project. In the Philippines, the basic unit of governance is the barangay. Every city is composed of several barangays, and every barangay is made up of smaller communities and neighborhoods. In light of President Rodrigo Duterte's war on drugs, the barangay has also become the smallest cog in the drug war's machinery. Community leaders or barangay officials now have the power to decide the shape of the war on drugs. Episode 1: The Drug War in Tondo. January 21, 2018. It's fiesta time in Tondo, Manila. High-spirited marching bands compete with the thrill of videoke machines on nearly every corner. It is almost impossible to navigate the winding alleys without tripping on a child. Entire families and gangs of children are out on the streets, wearing the orange, blue, or red of their respective neighborhoods, each shade representing one of Tondo's 300 barangays. Over 600,000 people live in Tondo, crammed in an area less than 9 square kilometers. When Oplan Double Barrel, the government's anti-drug campaign, was launched nearly 2 years ago, Tondo's barangay captains faced tough choices. Throughout the country, local leaders were told to submit a watch list of suspected drug users and dealers in their communities. They were supposed to share those lists with the police, who then conducted operations that resulted in drug suspects being killed. It is hard to know the precise number of drug-related killings. Based on data we collected from news reports, there were at least 380 drug casualties in the city of Manila from July 2016 to December 2017. Tondo has one of the highest casualty rates. 117 of those killings, 30% of the total, took place in Tondo. Data from the Manila Police Department show that between July 2016 and February 2017, Police Stations 1 and 2 in Tondo conducted 77 operations that resulted in 88 casualties. These figures, however, include only those killed during uniformed police operations, not vigilante and other type of killings. Authorities have said they have a list of over 200 barangay officials involved in illegal drugs. The president himself has said that if those backed up by drug money will win as barangay captains, it will be another war. It will be another killing. The barangay is the linchpin of the administration's anti-drug operations. There are over 42,000 barangays throughout the country. The barangay chairperson, or punong barangay, and members of the Sangguniang Barangay, or council members, popularly called kagawad, are the elected officials with the closest claim to direct community representation. As the primary planning, implementing, and dispute resolution unit under the 1991 Local Government Code, any major government directive, whether it concerns vaccination, nutrition, or peace and order, needs the cooperation of the barangay if it is to be implemented. While the police are the most visible instruments of the drug war, they are only one of the many agents and institutions that have been mobilized for the Duterte administration's anti-drug campaign. There is an entire bureaucracy behind the war on drugs. The barangays, like the police, are at the front lines. President Duterte promised to eradicate illegal drugs within 3 to 6 months. The Philippine bureaucracy quickly took on this directive from top to bottom. The 10-point socio-economic agenda, prepared by the government's economic planning agency, became the 0 plus 10-point socio-economic agenda, with 0 as the fight against criminality and drugs. This fight, said Economic Minister Ernesto Pernia, is a prerequisite for, quote, the economy to thrive and flourish and for the country to prosper, end quote. An interagency committee on anti-illegal drugs also brought together 20 national government agencies to, quote, suppress the drug war in the country, end quote, by arresting both big-time drug dealers as well as street-level peddlers and users. the committee implements various instruments such as the National Anti-Drug Plan of Action for 2015 to 2020, which focuses on law enforcement, and the Barangay Drug Clearing Program, which mobilizes barangay officials to list, monitor, and conduct surveillance of drug users and dealers in their communities. Nominally headed by the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency and the Dangerous Drugs Board, much of the committee's work is carried out by the Department of the Interior and Local Government, or DILG. The DILG has oversight over the Philippine National Police. It also oversees all local government units. In September 2016, the DILG issued a memorandum circular that launched a national grassroots surveillance program aimed at using citizens to monitor and report drug, crime, and terrorism-related activities. This program is called Masa Masid, or Mamamayang Ayaw sa Anomalya, Mamamayang Ayaw sa Illegal na Droga, or Citizens Against Anomalies, Corruption, Citizens Against Illegal Drugs. Masa Masid overlaps with the Barangay Anti-Drug Abuse Council, or BADAC. These councils have existed for some time, but they were largely moribund, composed of barangay officials and representatives from the church and local organizations. BADACs are supposed to coordinate on implementing drug monitoring and rehabilitation programs. The DILG said that only half of all barangays in the country had a BADAC as of December 2016. Today, 70% of them do. Officials in the remaining 30% have been threatened with administrative charges if they do not activate anti-drug councils. The DILG's directive instructs city or municipal governments to consolidate anti-drug operation efforts. For example, they put together the lists of names of suspected quote-unquote drug personalities collected by the barangay. The City Anti-Drug Abuse Council, or CADAC, also supports the BADAC and helps organize activities for drug addicts and other community members. This can include counseling, sports fests, Zumba dancing, tree planting, and if resources are available, livelihood activities. Government funds are made available for these efforts. For 2018, the DILG proposed a 500 million peso budget for Masa Masid alone, while the PNP proposed 900 million pesos for Oplan Double Barrel. At the local level, the drug war has changed the way barangays spend their funds, which come from a 25% share in real estate taxes collected from their communities. Traditional social services such as medical clinics or feeding programs for malnourished children are no longer budget priorities. Through a number of policy incentives, as well as strict supervision by the DILG, the priority at the barangay level has now become the monitoring and surveillance of drug suspects and the rehabilitation of drug users who have surrendered. In a span of almost 2 years, the anti-drug campaign has become so deeply embedded at the grassroots level. In some cases, it has turned neighbor against neighbor, family against family. In all of these, the barangay, the smallest, often neglected unit of governance, holds the key. Barangay officials exercise discretion in how they implement the drug war in their communities. They play a critical role in determining who lives, who dies, and who gets rehabilitated in the war on drugs. This is a 4-part podcast on 3 barangay officials in Tondo, Manila, who responded to President Duterte's war on drugs in different ways. In the next episode, Resistance, Barangay Chairman David defies national government directives on the all-out war on drugs to avoid casualties, or what the government calls, quote-unquote, collateral damage.